Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for LDCX Supertrain Robot. And this one is Elephant. This is how he scales with other robots. He's a 3-train combiner, so he's bigger than the 2-train standard ones. And this guy has a pretty interesting head sculpt. It kind of reminds me of Ganesha. And for his accessories, he's got this cool shoulder cannon. And then he's also got these giant boots. And unfortunately, he basically just stands on top of these. So these don't wrap around the foot or make leg armor or anything like that. They are kind of just skates that he stands on. But they are pretty cool look, and they do have like an elephant hoof motif down there. And then he does have some attachment points the other robots don't have, so he does have these holes in the top of his shoulders, and the other robots don't have that, so they can't really use this as a shoulder cannon. And then he's got, these are attached by little clips in the feet, which the other robots don't have, so he's the only one that's able to use these, which is pretty unfortunate that the other robots can't use these accessory packs. One thing that this cannon can do, though, is it's on a 5mm peg, so he can actually hold this in his hand, and this comes all the way out like this. I don't know why. It doesn't really make, I guess it makes the cannon longer, and it's a bit of a tight fit, but it does go in his hand, so he can hold it like this, which doesn't look very great, or you can just turn it around and then collapse the grip, and that looks more natural. So I think this is the first LDCX robot, other than Peacock, that actually has a gun, and his scales really well. Like this looks really cool, just having his little skates on and having this big rifle in his hand. So I really do like the way he looks. His upper body looks very skinny compared to these huge hooves at the bottom. So the proportions, the colors, I really like the way this robot looks. His head sculpt is really unique. I would say he's probably like an 8. He's a pretty solid looking robot. There is something you can do to make his upper body a little bit bulkier. Okay, I like to take the accessory, the missile rack from the Ox King, and that basically fills him out, so his proportions just look a lot better like that. So that fits him really well, even though the colors don't really match. So there we go. And he looks kind of like, reminds me of a Gundam at this point, like one of the enemy Gundams. But he looks really cool. I really like how these bulk him up so that his legs kind of match his upper body now. And let's give him a 360. He looks like every other robot from the back. And if you've been watching my reviews, you already know exactly how his articulation is. It's exactly like every other robot in this series. So he does have bicep swivel, more than 90-degree bend on the elbow, and it's kind of weird if you straighten it out. He's also got 360 on the shoulder on a nice ratchet, and then a good amount of outward motion, but it's kind of floppy. And then the legs, or the hips, only have 1 click outward and then 1 click inward for the transformation. They're not very useful. And the legs do not kick forward or backwards at all, so that's very limited. And the head also does not rotate at all. You're not going to get any articulation there. The legs do have about 45 degrees of articulation on the knee, which goes backwards, which is not very useful if you don't have any hip joints. And then the feet do have ratchet pivots that do go out and inward, which are pretty useful. And that's about it for the articulation. It's pretty limited, except for the arms have good articulation, but everything else is kind of poor. I'm going to transform this guy. First thing you're going to do is take off all his accessories. So we'll just get rid of these pieces that don't really belong to him. And then you always have to tear off the arms. There's really just no way around that. And then these legs, just These feet just come unclipped. Okay, so now you basically have the torso of the robot. And it was really weird, these armor bits actually fell off. So one thing I discovered after all my other LDCX reviews is this little joint here actually has two settings, so you can actually collapse this and it clicks down, and that way these don't come out as much. So you can actually collapse it all the way, and now this is pretty solidly in there, so it's not floppy like this one. So that's a really cool engineering feature that they put double clicks, and now this is nice and flush and it's good and solid, won't wobble at all. So good job on Lingdong, the Chinese company that makes these. So you're going to push up the hip armor and then collapse the hips in, and then you just push down on the abs to collapse that section. You're going to push the head down, which has basically a spring-loaded gimmick so the head pops out when you put in the fake chest. And then you're going to put the fake chest over the head, and then this back armor section will just fit over there, and then you push down these tabs for transformation, and then you just point the toes down, and now the leg armors are going to fold out, and then because of the double joint design there, they can actually shift in and actually cover that gap entirely. So that's most of the robot there. That's his legs and his torso section. So for his arms, you just fold down the fist, and then there's a slider here that's going to slide up, and then you just put the forearm section and the shoulder together, and now you have the front and back of the train, which will just peg on to the rest of the body, and that will complete the main train. Okay, now moving on to the accessory car. So you have the rifle, you just fold in the handle of the rifle, and then the feet are very basic. You just fold down this back panel, you fold up the front panel, which will become the top of the train, and then that's already completed. And then you're just going to fold in the rifle. We'll just go right in the gap there, and same thing for the other foot. Okay, and now there's a huge gap here, and that's where the rest of the rifle is just going to slide in. Okay, and I actually put in the rifle backwards, so I had to turn it around. It only fits one direction. And there you go, that's the middle car of the train here. And you can just connect the trains using these kinds of joints and slots, or you can have these extenders which let the trains turn. So this is what it looks like if you don't use the connector. It's a nice tight fit, but now the train can't turn at all, so there's no articulation there. One little issue is, so this is the shoulder rocket accessory train. Unfortunately, if you do try to link this train with the other trains, it does a weird thing where there's no gap, and then you can see it's misaligned. So the wheels on the rocket train actually will not touch the ground if you connect all the trains. So that's an unfortunate oversight for the engineering right there. It would have been better if they just bumped these up just a little bit so that they were all uniform. But unfortunately it doesn't work that way. So I really like the way this train looks. It's the colors are really beautiful. It's just very eye-catching. The robot mode is really cool. The train has a nice clean side, and then on the other side you can see this train is nice and clean, but this one has all the screw holes on the other side. So it's nice that you can display it where you don't have to see any screw holes. So that was good design right there. Overall, I would give this train probably a 10. It looks really eye-catching. It's very colorful and interesting, and it's kind of hard to tell that it's a robot at all. Here's how he scales with the Deluxe Transformer. It's definitely the wrong scale. The train should definitely be a lot bigger, but doesn't look too bad together. So all of these figures feel really good in hand. I would definitely rate them an 8 for durability or quality. So they feel quite good. I'm not worried about them breaking. They're fun to transform because there's just nothing, everything fits very well. And there's nothing that feels cheap or like it's going to end up breaking. And so the quality is definitely an 8, so pretty solid quality. And then the The fun factor for this figure, I think, is pretty high, because you can also get just the basic robot transformation, but he comes with an accessory train, so you can get extra weapons, and the extra weapon pack and boots are pretty well done. Really set this guy apart and make him interesting, and it fits his elephant theme very well. So for fun factor, I say this is one of my favorite of this line, and I would say he's well worth the price. I would say maybe a 9 for how much fun he is. And then of course you can get his basic 2-train robot mode too, where you don't have to use his accessory pack at all. So a lot of playability on this guy, and it's a pretty simple concept, and I think he suffers that you can't use his accessory pack with the other robots because they can't use his feet. But overall, well worth the money. Great robot. I'm going to leave a link in the description for Sir Toys so you can order your own. And I'll see you next time.